3 in the morning. That time when the world is silent. That time when your phone is on silent. That time when even the dogs are asleep. Except for one dog, a small terrier. He started barking at exactly 2:57 a.m. His owner thought it was just a raccoon. She pulled the blanket over her head. She had work in 5 hours. She didn't want to get up. But the barking didn't stop. It got louder, more frantic. Then came the knock. 3 loud bangs on the front door. Not a polite knock, not a cop knock. Something in between. Something urgent. Something desperate. She looked at the clock. 3:01 a.m. Nobody knocks at 3 a.m. with good news. Nobody. That was the first thought that crossed her mind. The second thought was her husband. He was traveling for business. She was alone. Alone in a big house. Alone in a quiet neighborhood. Alone with a dog who wouldn't stop barking. She grabbed her phone. She didn't call 911 yet. She just held it. Ready. She tiptoed to the window. She pulled the curtain back just an inch, just enough to see, and what she saw made her blood run cold. It wasn't a police car. It wasn't an ambulance. It was a black SUV. No plates, no markings, tinted windows so dark she couldn't see inside. But she could see the driver. He was wearing a mask. Not a ski mask, a surgical mask, like the ones people wore during the pandemic. But this was different. This was wrong. He was looking right at her window, right at her. Like he knew she was there. Like he knew she was watching. She dropped the curtain. Her heart started pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. The knock came again, louder this time, more aggressive. A voice from outside, a man's voice, deep. He said her name. He said her full name. He said, "We know you're awake. Open the door. We just want to talk." Now, let me stop here for a second. Let me tell you who this woman is. Her name is Sarah Mitchell. She is a 4-year-old graphic designer. She lives in a small town outside of Nashville, Tennessee. She has no criminal record. She has never even had a speeding ticket. She volunteers at the local animal shelter. She donates to charity. She is the kind of person who returns her shopping cart to the corral. She is the last person on earth you would expect to be involved in something like this. But here she was, 3 a.m., masked men at her door, calling her by name. How did they know her name? How did they know she was alone? How did they know her husband was gone? She started to panic. Her hands were shaking. She couldn't unlock her phone. Her fingerprint wasn't working. She had to type the passcode. Wrong number again. Finally, 911. She pressed call, but before it could ring, she heard something else. A sound from the backyard. A window breaking. Glass shattering. The dog went crazy, barking, growling. Then a yelp. Then silence. Her dog, her little terrier. He was quiet now, and that silence was worse than any sound she had ever heard. She ran. She didn't think. She just ran. Up the stairs, into the master bedroom, into the walk-in closet. She locked the door. She pushed a dresser in front of it. She hid behind a row of hanging clothes. She could hear them downstairs. Footsteps, heavy footsteps, multiple people, at least 3, maybe 4. They were talking to each other, but not in English, in a language she didn't recognize. Eastern European, maybe Russian, maybe Ukrainian. She couldn't tell. She just knew it wasn't good. She knew this wasn't a robbery. Robbers don't break into houses wearing surgical masks. Robbers don't know your name. Robbers don't knock first. This was something else. Something much, much worse. She finally got 911 on the line, she whispered. She told the dispatcher everything. The masked men, the broken window, the language. The dispatcher told her to stay quiet, to stay hidden. Help was on the way. She waited. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. She heard the footsteps get closer. They were coming up the stairs. She could hear them checking the other rooms, opening doors, throwing things. They were looking for her. She held her breath. She squeezed her eyes shut. She prayed. She prayed harder than she had ever prayed in her entire life. And then she heard it. Sirens. Police sirens. Distant at first, then louder. Then right outside her house, the footsteps stopped. She heard shouting, then running, then doors slamming, then tires screeching, then silence again. She stayed in that closet for another 20 minutes, even after the police came in, even after they called her name, even after they said it was safe. She couldn't move. She couldn't speak. She was in shock. The police found her dog. He was alive, just scared. He had been hit with something. A broom handle, maybe. But he was okay. They found the broken window. They found footprints in the backyard. They found a cell phone, a burner phone, left behind on the kitchen counter. That phone would change everything. That phone would lead to the discovery of something so massive, so terrifying, that it would make international news. That phone would reveal that Sarah Mitchell was not the target. She was never the target. She was just at the wrong place at the wrong time. The men who broke into her house were looking for someone else. Someone who used to live at that address. Someone who had moved out 6 months ago. Someone who was a key witness in a federal case against a major international crime syndicate. Someone who had been placed in witness protection. Someone whose new address was supposed to be top secret, but it wasn't. Somehow, the syndicate had found it, but they had the wrong house, the wrong street, the wrong number. They were off by 1 digit, 1 single digit, and that 1 digit nearly cost Sarah Mitchell her life. Now, here is where the story takes a turn. Here is where the global manhunt begins. The men who broke into Sarah's house were not petty criminals. They were not street thugs. They were highly trained operatives, former military, contract killers. They worked for a man named Viktor Volkov. Viktor Volkov is a Russian oligarch. He is worth billions. He controls a network of illegal arms deals, human trafficking, money laundering. He has connections in over 30 countries. He has politicians in his pocket. He has judges on his payroll. He is untouchable, or so he thought. But 6 months ago, one of his top lieutenants flipped. He turned state's evidence. He agreed to testify against Volkov in exchange for a new identity. That lieutenant was the man who used to live at Sarah's address. That lieutenant was the reason the men came knocking at 3 a.m. They were there to silence him, permanently. But they got the wrong house. They got the wrong woman. And that mistake would cost them everything. Because Sarah Mitchell didn't just hide in that closet and wait for help. She did something else. Something none of them expected. Before she ran upstairs, she grabbed her phone. And she didn't just call 911. She recorded everything. The voices, the breaking glass, the language they were speaking. She didn't even know she had done it until the police played it back for her the next morning. And that recording was the key. It contained the voices of 2 men who were on the FBI's most wanted list, men who had been evading capture for over a decade, men who were so careful, so paranoid, that they never spoke on the phone. They never sent texts. They never left a digital footprint. But they made a mistake. They broke into the wrong house, and they left behind a burner phone, and they left behind their voices. And that was enough. The FBI launched an international manhunt. They tracked the burner phone to a warehouse in New Jersey. The warehouse was empty, but it had documents, pages and pages of documents, names, dates, locations, bank accounts. It was a treasure trove of evidence. It was the smoking gun they had been looking for years. They traced the men to a flight that left JFK Airport the morning after the break-in. The flight was headed to Istanbul. From Istanbul, they flew to Moscow. From Moscow, they disappeared. But the FBI didn't stop. They worked with Interpol. They worked with the Russian authorities. They worked with anyone who would listen. They put out arrest warrants. They froze bank accounts. They seized assets. Viktor Volkov's empire started to crumble. One by one, his associates were arrested. One by one, they turned on him. They gave him up. They gave him everything. But Viktor Volkov was smart. He was prepared. He had a contingency plan. He had multiple passports, multiple safe houses, multiple escape routes, and he used them. He fled Moscow in the middle of the night. He took a private jet to a secret location. Nobody knows where he is. Not the FBI, not the CIA, not the Russian intelligence agencies. He is a ghost. He is out there, right now. As you watch this video, he is out there, planning, waiting, rebuilding. And here is the part that keeps me up at night. Viktor Volkov knows who Sarah Mitchell is. He knows she is the reason his empire fell. He knows she is the reason his men are in prison. He knows she is the reason he is on the run. And he has a long memory. He is a vengeful man. He has killed people for much less. Much, much less. The FBI has Sarah in protective custody now. She has a new identity, a new home, a new life. But she lives in fear. She sleeps with the lights on. She jumps at every sound. She looks over her shoulder every time she goes outside. She doesn't go to the grocery store alone. She doesn't answer her door after dark. She doesn't trust anyone. Not fully. Not anymore. Her husband moved out. He couldn't handle the stress. He couldn't handle the constant fear. They are separated now. Divorce papers are being filed. The life she had before that 3 a.m. knock is gone. It is never coming back. All because of one digit. One single digit. That is the part that haunts me. That is the part that makes this story so terrifying. Because it could happen to anyone. It could happen to you. Think about it. You live in a house, you order packages online, you have a driver's license, you have a credit card. Your address is everywhere. It is on 1,000 databases, 1,000 websites, 1,000 pieces of paper, and every single one of them has your house number. But what if they didn't? What if someone made a typo? What if someone transposed a number? What if someone wrote 142 instead of 143? That is all it takes. That is all it takes for your life to be turned upside down. That is all it takes for masked men to show up at your door at 3 a.m. That is all it takes for you to become a target, not because of something you did, but because of something someone else did, because of a mistake, a human error, a typo. Sarah Mitchell is a survivor. She is a hero. She didn't ask for this. She didn't want this, but she was thrown into it, and she fought. She fought to stay alive. She fought to bring these men to justice. She fought to make sure Viktor Volkov never hurts anyone else. And she is still fighting every single day. The FBI says she is safe. They say Viktor Volkov is too busy hiding to worry about her. They say he is no longer a threat. But they also said his lieutenant was safe in witness protection. And look what happened. Look what almost happened. So I don't know. Maybe they are right. Maybe she is safe. But I can't help but wonder. I can't help but think about that 3 a.m. knock. And I can't help but ask myself, if it happened to her, why couldn't it happen to anyone else? Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with this. There is an ongoing manhunt for Viktor Volkov. The FBI is offering a reward, $10 million. That is not a typo. $10 million. For information leading to his arrest. If you know something, if you have seen something, if you have heard something, say something. You could be the reason he finally gets caught. You could be the reason Sarah Mitchell finally gets to sleep through the night. You could be the reason this story finally gets a happy ending. Or at least an ending. Because right now, it doesn't have one. It is still being written. And nobody knows what the final chapter will look like. If you made it this far, thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for caring. Thank you for being curious. The world is a scary place. It is unpredictable. It is dangerous. But it is also fascinating. And stories like this remind us that truth is stranger than fiction. That reality is more terrifying than any movie. That the monsters are real. And they walk among us. But so do the survivors. So do the heroes. So do people like Sarah Mitchell. And as long as there are people like her, there is hope. There is always hope. Now, I want to hear from you. What would you have done if you were in Sarah's position? Would you have answered the door? Would you have hidden? Would you have recorded the voices? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. And while you are down there, consider hitting that like button. It helps the algorithm. It helps more people find this story. And it helps me keep telling stories like this. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the bell icon. That way you never miss a video. Because I have a lot more stories to tell. Stories that will shock you. Stories that will scare you. Stories that will make you think twice about that knock at your door. Stay safe out there. Lock your doors. Check your address. And for goodness sake, if someone knocks at 3 a.m., don't answer. Just don't answer. I will see you in the next one.